Judge and jury shocked by 9-year-old black boy's unexpected legal brilliance. The courtroom fell silent. Everyone turned to the young boy standing nervously before the judge. At just 9 years old, he was dressed in a simple blue shirt and beige pants, his small frame barely visible behind the podium. But in that moment, his words would shatter the silence. His knowledge of the law was astounding. His understanding of justice is uncanny. What could a child possibly know about the intricacies of the legal system? But as the jury listened, they couldn't help but be captivated. This wasn't just any boy. This was a young black boy, about to show the world what it truly means to fight for what's right. In a small town where racial tensions simmered beneath the surface, 9-year-old Jamal Harris had always known he was different. Growing up in a neighborhood where opportunity was scarce and prejudice was abundant, Jamal learned early that life would not always be fair. Yet from a young age, he showed an extraordinary curiosity for the world around him, especially when it came to matters of justice. Jamal's mother, a single parent working 2 jobs, did her best to instill values of fairness and equality in him. While she was often exhausted, she made sure to read him stories about historical figures who had stood up against injustice: Rosa Parks, Martin Luther King Jr., Thurgood Marshall. Jamal would listen intently, often asking questions that adults found too advanced for his age. One day, something happened that would change his life forever. A neighbor's son, Malik, was wrongfully accused of a crime he didn't commit. Jamal knew Malik, and he knew he wasn't capable of the crime he was charged with. But in the small, tight-knit town, the whispers about Malik's race made him an easy target. As Jamal watched the grown-ups talk in circles, he realized they weren't talking about the truth. They were talking about their assumptions. That's when Jamal made up his mind. He would help Malik. With his natural intelligence and the unwavering sense of justice instilled by his mother, Jamal started researching the law. He spent hours at the local library reading case studies, learning about the rights of the accused, and understanding the legal system in a way no 9-year-old ever should have to. But Jamal wasn't like other kids. While his peers played games and ran through the streets, Jamal was focused on one goal. He would prove that Malik was innocent. The thought of him sitting quietly in a courtroom, surrounded by strangers, never crossed his mind. But life has a funny way of pushing us to places we least expect. The day of the trial arrived, and the atmosphere in the small courtroom was tense. The case against Malik seemed open and shut. The prosecutor, a man known for his tough stance on crime, had already painted a picture of Malik as a troublemaker. The jury leaned in his favor despite the lack of concrete evidence. Jamal, however, had something no one else did: his unwavering belief that the truth would prevail. He had spent weeks preparing for this moment, practicing his arguments with his mother, refining his words, and immersing himself in the language of the law. As he sat in the back of the courtroom, watching Malik's defense lawyer struggle to make headway, Jamal knew it was his turn. "I'm sorry, Your Honor," Jamal said, standing up and walking towards the front of the room, his small voice trembling but determined. The judge, taken aback by the young boy's confidence, raised an eyebrow. "And who might you be?" "I'm Jamal Harris. I have something to say," Jamal answered, his heart racing. The room was silent as the judge allowed him to continue. Jamal stood, shoulders squared, eyes focused on the jury. He began to speak about fairness, about the importance of questioning assumptions, and about the very principles that the courtroom was supposed to uphold. Jamal explained the inconsistencies in the prosecutor's arguments, pointing out that the evidence didn't match the accusations. He spoke about the history of racial bias in the justice system, citing cases where individuals had been wrongfully accused based on race. He even quoted legal terms and precedents he had learned from his readings, his knowledge stunning everyone in the room. The jury exchanged glances, unsure of what to make of a 9-year-old speaking with such eloquence. The defense lawyer, who had been struggling, now found himself in a new light. He stepped back, giving Jamal the floor as the boy continued to speak about the importance of truth and justice, no matter who you were or where you came from. But then, the prosecutor, attempting to regain control, interrupted. "Your Honor, this child cannot possibly understand the complexities of this case. He is but a child, and his words are meaningless in this courtroom. The words hung in the air, but Jamal was undeterred. He looked the prosecutor in the eye, his voice growing stronger. It's not about how old I am, sir. It's about what's right. Malik doesn't deserve to be judged by the color of his skin. He deserves justice, just like anyone else. The courtroom buzzed with tension as Jamal finished speaking. The jury was divided. On one side, some were clearly moved by the boy's words, their expressions softening. On the other side, some remained skeptical. But the judge, who had remained quiet throughout the ordeal, finally spoke. Jamal Harris, I have been in this profession for many years, and I have seen many things. But never have I seen someone so young yet so determined to fight for what's right. You've reminded us of what we sometimes forget in this room, that justice should be blind, and that truth matters above all else. The judge paused, his eyes scanning the room. I believe, with all due respect to the legal professionals here, that you've made a compelling case. Malik, as far as I am concerned, is innocent until proven guilty, and you've shown us that the case against him is lacking. Jamal watched as the jury deliberated, his heart pounding in his chest. The weight of the moment was overwhelming. His mind raced. Had he done enough? Was it possible that at 9 years old he could change the course of someone's life? Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the verdict was read aloud. Not guilty. The room erupted in applause. Malik's family cried tears of relief and joy while the prosecutor stood stunned. At the turn of events, Jamal, however, stood motionless, processing the words that had changed the trajectory of a young man's life. He had done it. His efforts, his knowledge, and his belief in justice had prevailed. In the days that followed, Jamal's name was on the lips of everyone in the town. The media caught wind of the trial, and soon Jamal became a symbol of hope, intelligence, and the power of standing up for what's right. But for Jamal, the victory wasn't about the attention. It was about something much more profound. He had learned that the fight for justice didn't depend on your age, race, or background. It depended on your willingness to speak the truth, no matter how hard it was. It was about challenging the status quo and questioning the systems that had been designed to oppress. Jamal's victory wasn't just for Malik. It was for every person who had been unjustly accused, for every person who had been silenced by the system, and for every person who had been judged by the color of their skin. Years later, Jamal would look back on that day as the moment that shaped his life. He would go on to study law, dedicating his life to ensuring that justice was served equally for all, regardless of their race or background. The courtroom had seen a young boy rise above the challenges of his environment, proving that even the smallest voices could make the most significant impact. Jamal's story became a testament to the power of knowledge, the importance of standing up for what's right, and the unshakable belief that no one, no matter how young or how old, should ever be silenced in the fight for justice. And so, the question remains, if a 9-year-old can stand up for justice in a courtroom, what can we as adults do to ensure that justice is truly served for all?